Good evening, all. Welcome to another TRSB Sports podcast. Myself, Shane Big. Pleasure to have on Bily the Kid Underwood, middleweight pro boxer prospect, 4-0 record. How you doing, mate?
All good, mate. You?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's Friday evening, weekend off, so I'm enjoying it quite a lot. Normally, what I do, obviously, with the interviews, I think rather than sort of like steam you straight into like the argy-bargy about the boxing, I like to throw a few warm-up questions in there, just to get you into the interview. So, cup of tea, a Dunkin' biscuit. What do you have, rich tea or digestive?
Digestive.
Full English breakfast or a roast dinner?
Full English.
Now this one's a little bit tricky because this is like a bush tucker trial. So this one is pickled sheep's bollock or pan-fried pig snout.
The pig snout.
Me too. So into the boxing then. So when did you get into? What age was you when you got into the boxing, and who got you into the boxing?
I first went down the gym when I was about 11. No one really pushed me into it, to be honest. My whole family is sort of football. Everyone's football, and obviously I was playing when I was a kid as well. But sort of went down there with a few of my schoolmates when I was about 11, and there's about 5 of us, and each week another kid sort of stopped coming. And I just stuck at it, really, just carried on, and sort of as I started to realise that, you know, I was all right at it, I just kept going and kept improving, and really, and you know, and then I had my first fight and just fell in love with it, basically.
So was that, as an 11-year-old, was that at the same club you'd been all the time? Or have you moved?
So first of all, with all my mates, we went down to a gym called Angel Boxing Club. And that was obviously where we all went. And as they started to drop out, and I started to realise that it's what I wanted to do, I moved to a gym called the Lion Club, which is where I had literally the rest of literally all of my amateur career, really, which was closer to my house and stuff like that. So I ended up moving there and getting some proper sparring in and stuff like that, and then started improving.
Now, what age was that then when you went to the Lions gym? That
was about 13.
Right. And so from the Lions gym, you sort of trained there, and from that point, you sort of like got into, you thought, right, good enough to go in and start going amateurs, ABAs. Is that what you went, amateurs?
Yeah. So I ended up going there after I had won. I lost my first amateur fight, to be honest, and then I ended up stopping 2 on the bounce after that. So it was like, you know, I lost my first one. I thought, right, I need to crack down now. And then ended up stopping my next 2. I remember my amateur coach Steve Waters. He lied to me before the bout to not get in my head, but he told me the kid had like 3 fights or something like that, but he'd end up being like six unbeaten or something. And I ended up stopping him anyway. And he told me after he was actually 6-0.
And how many amateur fights did you eventually have in the end?
I think I had touching about 40. I think, if I remember.
And you think that gives you a good foundation for your professional?
Do you know what? I boxed a lot of good kids as an amateur. I went in the ABAs quite early, and ended up obviously in the championships. You draw who you draw, and I ended up boxing a few good kids quite early on. So I sort of had to improve quite quickly, if you like.
Did you pick up a London title?
Yeah, I had 2 London titles.
Okay, and I suppose that was probably then the first experience of being, at that time, in your eyes as a young person, that's quite big time, really. You're in a final and you're actually winning something.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got to a few as well. Obviously, got to about 4, I think, 1, 2 of them. In the last year of the youth, so I got to the national quarters. So yeah, I've done all right. And as I said, everyone that I boxed sort of were at a good standard, so I was developing every time.
And as an amateur, did you beat any people in the amateurs that you now see that are in the pros that are ahead of you a little bit in relation to maybe done more fights, or just a little closer, a little further in their journey than what you are? Because you've had a bit of a stop-start journey.
There's a few kids. I mean, I actually had a London final which I got beaten. I lost to Daniel Dubois.
Right.
And obviously, so we boxed each other in a London final when we was a bit younger, obviously. That was at like 63 kilos or something like that. So he obviously had a massive growth spurt, and I didn't, basically.
So with the like the boxing, what would you say it did for you, sort of growing up? How young boxing? Obviously, there's plenty of things that could be going in your life. You've got to show a lot of dedication to obviously stay in the boxing.
Yeah.
For you, what did boxing give to you as a young age?
Well, I was playing football and boxing for a while, until I got to about 15, 16. And then my granddad actually said to me, like, look, if you want to focus on one, I think you should sort of choose one now, and actually really push for it. And at the time, I was enjoying the boxing, so I just picked that and just cracked on with that. Sort of slowed down on the football and just cracked on with the boxing, really. But yeah, it taught me everything, really. Just sort of discipline, structure as well. Not getting wrapped into other things that I could have, like where I'm from, it's easy to get wrapped into other stuff, like from a young kid. But it kept me on the straight and narrow, and just kept me, when all the other kids were going about getting up to no good, I was going to the gym. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, so in a way, it sort of keeps you on the straight and narrow. I think we've all got stories of people that sort of been out and done things and sort of gone off the rail. But I suppose with the boxing, going to a club and everything, it does give you some sort of grounding, and also gives you something to focus on, I guess.
yeah, no, definitely. It gives you something to drive towards. I was always saying to myself, as an amateur, I want to turn pro. And then you get to that stage, and then you sort of set new goals. So it's still now, you sort of set yourself goals, so you're always giving yourself something to push for.
If you didn't go for the boxing and you'd carried on with the football, do you think you would have got anywhere in the football?
I think I would have done all right. I would have done all right. I was playing at a decent level when I was about 16, so yeah, I think I would have done all right.
What was your defence, midfield, up front?
I'm a midfield player.
So do you reckon boxing was the right choice then?
Yeah, no, definitely. As I said, I had my choice, and I chose that, so I just put everything into that.
So you switched to pro then, didn't you? I think you had your first pro fight 2017.
Yeah.
You won that fight. The thing that was puzzling me was, this seems like a little bit of a stop-start career. It feels like you could have been further ahead than what you have been, but
yeah,
what happened?
definitely.
So 2017, you win.
Yeah. So in my debut, I fractured. Sorry, not fractured. My left shoulder came out. It dislocated. In the fight, so I had to get through that. I boxed 2 rounds, sort of southpaw and dropping my left hand low, because it was out for 2 rounds. So after that, I thought, oh, maybe I'll just strengthen it, and I was back in the gym, and I was trying to get away with it. But something would happen. I'd sort of say, all right, it's all right now, I've got it strong enough. I'd spar, and it would just go again. And it was just one of them things. So I had to end up having it operated on, which obviously the rehab and the recovery ended up taking another year and a bit, until I could come back in.
So I'm guessing that's
what pushed me on. That's what sort of stopped me,
Right, I'm guessing that, and that's what sort of kept you out until 2019. I'm guessing. So how did you cope with that? Sort of, obviously you're young, you've turned pro, you've got your first win, you've obviously got your ambitions and goals, and then all of a sudden you're having to deal with that. Was it a struggle dealing with the injury and just watching things go on?
Yeah, it was difficult. And even now, I sort of think to myself, like I should be like a lot further in my career than what I am. Challenging for titles and stuff like that. But everything happens for a reason, I suppose. But yeah, no, it was difficult. But yeah, I think if you can show that you can get through things like that and crack on, then shows your sort of personality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I suppose it shows a little bit of resilience, really. So then, obviously, you've gotten over that hurdle. The injuries healed. You sort of obviously got back into sparring, and then you've got like your 3 wins in a row. At that point, you must have thought, right, here we go. We're sort of cracking on, and then we've got another stop. Was that COVID or what was that?
It was COVID. So I was. Hello?
Yeah, you're still there.
Sorry, mate. So I was actually scheduled to box in the March when the first lockdown come about. So yeah, obviously I boxed in December, just before Christmas, before the lockdown come about, and then I was scheduled to box in March. But yeah, obviously then it come about, and sort of everything went pear shaped then, really, as it did for a lot of people.
Yeah, so with that lockdown, it just stopped you clean then in your tracks. What was going on then? Back just was because obviously you're a paint and decorate. Was it just back to sort of like back to the 9 to 5 and sort of just keeping yourself well? You couldn't go out and
yeah,
train.
back to work. Really, I was ticking over when I could, as much as I could. But luckily, again, for some people they couldn't go to work or whatever. But luckily, you know, I was still managed to get some work in, which I count myself lucky for. So I stayed as busy as I could.
So obviously when the lockdown restrictions obviously eased, then I'm guessing that was you was able to get back into the gym, start working out, and start thinking about planning going forward again.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then sort of last year summer, I was actually scheduled to box Josh Adewale as well. And then the board actually pulled up a previous injury that I had in 2017 and said they wanted loads of reports and all this stuff, and sort of it was a bit difficult for me to get them all. They pulled that up the week before the fight, so I was scratching trying to get it all, and you know, yeah, that's another story. So that ended up not going through on time. So that was another sort of setback, if you like.
And did you not have that fight rescheduled with them again?
Yeah, and then the same thing. They pulled up. Oh no, we want another report from a specific person, and they sort of, you know, it was a difficult one. So I was searching about for whatever it was they wanted. You know what? Only recently have we got it all over the line. Where it was an injury that happened so long ago, and I had to search back for reports that happened in 2017. It was a difficult one, and we've only got it all over the line quite recently, to be honest.
So have you got that all resolved for going forward? They're not going to sort of like pull the carpet out under you again.
Yeah, no,
going forward, you got.
Yeah, do you know what? I'd said to, you know, my management, and I said to them, I'm not announcing nothing else until we get what they want in. You know, so yeah, so until this wasn't announced, then I wouldn't put anything up.
Okay, so we're at a stage now. Then obviously you've got your next fight coming up. That's with Tommy Jacobs on the 22nd of April. That's at the York Hall. Tommy Jacobs is quite experienced, and he's like 34. He's got a bit of pedigree behind him as well, isn't he? He's like, he had good amateur pedigree, might have been GB development team at some point. And in some respects, he probably feels a little bit like Hugh in a way. He's sort of like, if things had panned out slightly different for him, I think we've had Tommy on the show before, and I think Tommy probably thinks to himself that if things had went a certain way for him, he might have been at a stage now where he was thinking about probably hanging up the gloves and maybe thinking he would have achieved some of the stuff he'd done.
Yeah.
This fight for you, what do you make of Tommy as a fighter? Does this think this is quite a step up in relation to sort of opponent for yourself, or how do you feel with Tommy?
Well, I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, look, he's not a journeyman. I've only ever boxed journeymen. You know, full respect to them for what they do, and they're all very tough. But he's actually coming to win. You know. Which makes it good for me. You know, it makes it a good fight in general. Two prospects, and they're both coming to try and win. So, you know, that's all I look at really. I look at he's someone who's trying to take me off my route, and he's trying to come and win, and I'm trying to do the same to him. So that's pretty much it, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose obviously with this record at present, it will show, if you look on BoxRec, you're looking at 2-0. But obviously there was a point where I think he wasn't BBVC, I think he was Bieber, fighting under that and still picking up titles. So like I say, there is a bit of history with him and what he's got. What do you think you can bring to the table that's probably going to disappoint Tommy on the night?
Obviously, look, going into it, I believe I can win the fight, you know. So I believe I'm a better fighter. If I didn't, then I wouldn't be going into the fight. But yeah, obviously, always previous, I can't really take much notice of it, because at the end of the day, when me and him get in there, I was none of his previous opponents, so we can just go from there. And the same for him, you know. He's never boxed anyone like me. I've never boxed anyone that's him, you know. So just got to go in there and get in.
And how's your preparation going for this? Is it going all right?
Yeah, I feel great. Really
So,
good.
and where are you in relation to sort of like prep? Well, obviously, you're in some sort of training camp. But how far off are you from being ready to sort of like go to action with him?
Yeah, no, I'm on track. Everything's on track. You know, obviously we've still got 4 weeks to go. Everything's on track. I'm starting to feel really sharp. Yeah, pretty much ready to go.
And how does that 4 weeks wind down? So in respect to your training, so you're obviously at a certain point now. You're talking about you're doing your running this morning. When we get to sort of like third week away, second week away, last week, sort of what is the action plan within the training camp? How does that work?
To be honest, for the next 3 weeks, it'll be pretty much what it's been for the last three. You know, pretty much full steam ahead. And then as you start getting into fight week, you know, the weekend before fight week, you start to taper down and sharpen things up and get ready for fight night.
So what's your prediction for the fight? Obviously, it's a 6-rounder. How do you, in your mind, how do you visualize you going through the fight? How do you plan on going through that fight?
Do you know what? Visualizing in the fight, obviously, as I said, I believe I'll win the fight. However it comes, I'll be ready for any of it, you know. So, you know, whether it's an early one or whether it goes a distance, I'll be ready for whatever it is I need to do.
Yeah, so in most fights, when you go in there, do you believe that you can go and then you can control and dictate the tempo? Is that how you see it going for yourself? You don't really think anything other than that?
Yeah, 100%. I think going in there, you know, I think about what I'm going to do, not what they're going to do. That's with anyone, you know. So I think that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I guess that's the only way going forward. And then obviously, if you get through this one and you get the result, you get the win. What's your goals for the next 18 months? Like you say, you're wanting to do a little bit of catch up. How quickly do you want to move?
Obviously, I have a chat with my team about that and people around me who sort of guide me. But yeah, listen, me personally, I'm not looking past this fight. I've always been sort of one fight at a time, one fight as it comes. And I'm definitely not looking past this one. You know, as I said, it's a good opponent, so I'm definitely not looking past this one. But you know, towards the back end of the year, I want to have had sort of 3 this year, and then towards the back end of the year, start looking at titles.
What's that? Southern area, English, and so on.
Yeah. So yeah, listen, I'd like to go the traditional route. Try and look at the southern area first of all, see where it is, and go the traditional route. To be honest.
And to be honest, Southern area is not going to be too far beyond the next 2 fights. If you come through this fight, you would be expecting 2 fights within that to be Southern area, really.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like especially at the moment as well, like opportunities come when maybe they wouldn't have 3 years ago. Do you know what I mean? I think opportunities are coming a lot quicker now, and you know, if you're in that situation, then sometimes you just got to take them.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right. That's, I think, in relation to your boxing and that fight coming up on the 22nd of April. In relation to tickets for that, how's the tickets going for that? Can people get tickets through you, or where do people get tickets for that one?
Yeah, so you know, they can message me on Instagram. That's where I get most of my tickets from. And then obviously the people around me who come to every fight, which I'll do well with. And as I said, like, you know, with a good fight, the better you do with the tickets, I think, to be honest. When you've got a decent fight there and people know it's a decent fight, they want to come and watch and want to come and support. So we're on track to do really well with these tickets. So I'm looking forward to it. I should have a good few people there.
It's quite a good card as well, because I think there's a Southern area title on that night as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there is. To be honest, yeah, I don't know the whole card, to be honest. I've just been so focused on this and so focused on training. But yeah, it's just as I said, I'm just glad to have a proper fight that people can come and watch and get behind me.
And for the Instagram, what is it? Is it Billy the Kid, or what's the Instagram that people need to look for?
No, so the Instagram is at Bily Underwood.
Cool, right. Well, we'll make sure this is on the thing. We'll put a link in there on the end as well, so people know where to go. We had a bit of news recently on Sky. Usyk is going to come over and he's now going to sort of train for Joshua. How do you think that one's going to
go? Listen, obviously, I try and always get behind the countrymen, but I just think Usyk's just got his number, to be honest with you. I'd like to go against that, but I just think he's got his number.
Yeah, I think the worst thing now is obviously he's going to come back from sort of the Ukraine, and I'm half thinking like 70% of the people behind him as well anyway, wouldn't they?
Yeah, of course. Like, a lot of people are going to respect what it is he's doing at the minute, you know. So that will probably just boost his stock a bit. People behind him and stuff like that. But yeah, as regards to boxing wise, I just think he's all wrong from him. I'd love for Joshua to prove me wrong. As I said, I'm behind my countryman all the time, but yeah, I just don't think he could.
Do you think he'll go the distance, or do you think Usyk will finish AJ this time? That's a bit harsh. Finish him, stop him.
Yeah. I don't know, to be honest, because obviously he hurt him in the last, didn't he, in the previous fight. Yeah, do you know what? I think Usyk's got that much control over any of these fights. He can sort of pick and choose at times.
Sitting on the fence then?
No, I'm going to say Usyk.
Okay, so like we had a little warm up at the beginning, we'd like to have a little warm down come the end as well. So who would you prefer to support, Brentford or Chelsea?
Brentford.
I thought you might say that. Who would you prefer to fight, Sugar Ray Leonard or Mayweather?
Mayweather.
And finally, Pacquiao or Hatton, which one would you fight?
Hatton.
Right. On that note, if you've got any shout outs, anyone you want to sort of like shout out to, sponsors, anyone who's looking after you, anyone who's training you?
Yeah, so my sponsors and who I get a lot of work of is Newton Property Solutions. So they help me out along the way with medicals and stuff like that. They're the sort of main people behind me. But yeah, you know, other than that, if anyone wants tickets to come down and support, be a good night, obviously involved in a good fight, then give me a shout on Instagram.
Lovely. Well, do you know what, Billy? It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you this evening. Best of luck on the 22nd of April. Hopefully what we can do is we can get in touch with you sometime after the fight, just to see how things went, and we'll take it from there, mate.
Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Pleasure speaking to you. You have a nice night, yeah?
Yeah, mate. And you.
Perfect. Lovely, mate. That's all done. What I'll do is we'll send you something on Twitter and something on Insta when it goes out. I think it'll probably go out tomorrow. About 2 or 4, but as soon as it goes out, what we'll do is we'll just send you a link to say it's there, mate.
All right, mate. Nice one.
Yeah, nice speaking to you. You have a nice night, yeah?
Cheers for that, Andrew, mate.